we're connected to our vital energy, our life force, we move through life usually with maybe a little bit more pep in our step. There's a sense of happiness for no good reason at all that takes over, because our physicality is the producer of that potential energy, right? So as we are moving, well, then you have all types of hormonal changes that occur within the body. And so ask anyone, how do you feel after your workout? Pre-workout, you feel okay. You might even feel good, even pre-workout, but post-workout, the dopamine kicked in, the adrenaline is here. So there's a tendency for us to feel better as we move.
Welcome to the MINDTRX podcast with breakthrough ideas to live your best life possible and how to make it happen. I'm Paul Scheele, and today we will be joined by Anne-Marie Duchêne. Anne-Marie is a specialist in the integration of mind, body, and spirit, employing a unique blend of scientific and holistic healing practices to empower individuals toward healthier, happier, and simpler lives. As a strategic intervention and peak performance coach, Anne-Marie has taught thousands of clients how to develop and improve their physical, mental, and emotional health. She offers innovative coaching programs and hands-on body work grounded in the Duchêne Method, which fosters mindful communication and personal awareness. Hello, Anne-Marie. So glad you're here at this podcast. Welcome.
Thank you.
You know, I've absolutely adored our time together, getting to know the depth and the breadth of your work. It's a powerful journey that you've had. And I'd love to have you share a bit about all the exploring you have done, what unique perspectives you've gained from it. And I'm thinking we could start at this foundation of medical anthropology that you studied at UC Berkeley.
Yes, good place to start. It's an interesting story because it really came to me. I was not necessarily looking to become a medical anthropologist, although it kind of showed up like many other things in my life. But I want to take us a little bit prior to that, and just share that I was brought up in an esoteric commune in the south of France. The story to that is I'm the last of 6 children. And by the time my mother came around to me, she decided to go full force into yoga, breathwork, meditation, vegetarianism. And so one of her girlfriends was part of this community. It was a spiritual community. And so my mother started to get involved. And I was very young. I was maybe, I think, 4 or 5. And so we would go to France every summer to spend 1 or 2 months at the commune, an ashram type of environment, where we grew our own food and we prayed and chanted every day. There were very specific rituals that we followed, as you would find and imagine in an ashram. And so that was the foundation really for my entry into connecting with spirituality. And in fact, I would say that that has been the lifeline, because growing up like this, you just assume that that's how life is.
Well, yeah, and it would give you such a holistic perspective on what does it mean to nourish your body and to care for your body and to work with your mind and to work with your emotions and all that. What a gorgeous way to get started.
Well, my mom, God love her, she's no longer with us in this plane, but she was a true deep influence. She studied homeopathy. She was a master Reiki healer. And so she just had, a deep passion for it. And so I just kind of grew up in that environment. And so from there, I had a dance career. I was a dancer, moved to New York City, and I was an artist, lived that life for about 12 years. And then from there, I moved to San Francisco and decided that I wanted to go deeper. I had started anthropology studies in New York because I pretty much went to school throughout my career, always interested and curious about esotericism, spirituality, and more importantly, how do people evolve within their cultures based on their belief system in relationship to healing? Because that's what I was exposed to a lot growing up.
Okay, so that I think you've just defined what is medical anthropology because I really had no idea what that even meant.
Well, there are different areas of it. My particular focus was to study just what I said, the evolution of healing in different cultures via a spiritual pathway. So there were,
Got it.
yeah, so it was fascinating because I had seen a lot of healing practices growing up with all types of different healers and shamans and, going from priests to shamans to babalaos to very different types of these kinds of medicine women and men in their culture. So I just kind of went to San Francisco and decided, Berkeley would be a good place for me to go. They have a great program. And it was kind of just like that. I remember when I went to interview, they said, oh, we would love to have you here because I was a little bit older then. So they were looking for a diverse population base in their student body. And I thought, you know,
That's great. Well, that's very cool. And I know that you also went and studied with indigenous healers in the Amazon. Could you say a little bit about what that did for you and how it informed your work?
yeah, so based on my upbringing, I always had a hand and foot, let's say, into this evolution of spiritual healing. And also, I want to mention that as a dancer, as a mover, there was a lot of healing occurring through movement in
Mm,
my education. So I was part of different types of dance circles, First Nation people sitting in circle, and healing in circle was a big part of how I grew up. And so it wasn't just the idea of this healing, and certainly not so much through talk, but through movement and to allow for energetic fields to emanate, evolve, and to become more aligned with the subtlety of feeling energy around us.
that's okay. So when I think of dancers in the West, as we've come to know it, I think of it as a very punishing, very difficult, very hard and impactful, physiologically impactful activity. But I hear you saying that the kind of dance that you did was really oriented in a very different way. How did you bring that into a more Western way of thinking?
So when I moved, I started in Montreal. I started dancing young, and I really loved jazz. So I was really a jazz dancer, and I was very athletic growing up. And so that was the foray. And then, of course, classical training. Classical training was an interesting experience because in the, we call it the fraternity, the ashram that I was grown up in, they really were supporting more of a ballet orientation because there was a relationship with it being more closer to divine grace, more graceful, more in a way appropriate. Now I was
Yes.
kind of rebelling because I was a jazz dancer and I loved the rhythm and R&B and the blues, and that was more my type of rhythmic desire to go towards that. So even though, yes, you're right, dance careers are grueling, it's difficult. We train every single day, but when you're 15, 16, 17, 18, like it was no big deal. And in New York, what was very prominent at the time and still is today, they had different types of African dance troupes. And so I was always called to move into the live drumming, for example. So it's very tenuous, it's difficult work, but it's almost as if when you get into that type of healing circle or of dance, or when you have live drummers there, it's kind of like the spirit catches you.
Yes. I'm thinking about how many traditions from Sufism and all the movement, the dance, it is very much oriented toward the spiritual nature. And certainly for the African culture, the rhythm and the sound is very much that place of where spirit resides. So how does this help a modern mind come to understand some of the nuances of the way we move and we walk through our world each day? How can that be of some assistance to us?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's beautiful. So I see it more today, Paul, as how we move through life. When we're connected to our vital energy, our life force, we move through life usually with maybe a little bit more pep in our step. There's a sense of happiness for no good reason at all that takes over because our physicality is the producer of that potential energy, right? So as we are moving, well, then you have all types of hormonal changes that occur within the body. And so ask anyone, how do you feel after your workout? Pre-workout, you feel okay. You might even feel good, even pre-workout, but post-workout, now the dopamine kicked in, the adrenaline is here. So there's a tendency for us to feel better as we move. And I'm a big believer in that. And now, in the way that it has evolved in my own life, is that I work with people in movement, but not just large extrinsic movement. It's about internal movement. So I can say that in my own meditation practice, there's a lot going on inside.
Yeah, and it's worth bringing that sense of mindful awareness of our travel through each day. Um, I think many people in modern society are just on to the next task and not necessarily mindful of the transitions that we're going throughout the day. So this is very powerful. Now, you are also certified in Hellerwork, which is a tissue massage therapy movement kind of thing. Could you explain what Hellerwork is? I know it came out of the tradition of Ida Rolf and Rolfing, but it seems like it's a much gentler procedure than the Rolfing bodywork.
Yeah, so I came to Hellerwork a little bit like everything else in my life. I feel like it called me in.
Oh, nice.
But before I came to this work, I was actually, I worked with Cirque du Soleil for many years as an artistic talent scout. And I would travel the world and look at artists and then audition them and hire them for specific profiles on the Cirque du Soleil shows. So now you see the extension of the medical anthropology in kind of how life evolved and invited me, because now I was traveling within different cultures, auditioning people who moved. Artistic profiles with Cirque du Soleil were particularly dance, vocal singers, and also clowns. And so I got a real great education in how different cultures move within their own craft. And all of it has a thread to this, what Julia Cameron would call our vein of gold. There's kind of this energy. So I remember specifically, Cirque du Soleil was offering me a promotion after several years. I was working with them for 10 years almost. And a good friend of mine, gave me a gift certificate for my birthday to go get a Hellerwork session. And I thought, I've I've been around a lot of body work healers. I was like, we'll see. I didn't jump right away. It took me 8 months to cash in. my gift certificate. So eventually I go, and the practitioner was extraordinary. She was beautiful, mindful, present, and just was the perfect person to invite me into this experience. And so the Hellerwork series, yes, everything that's really, so essentially it's structural integration, the umbrella for all types of people who do structural integration. So that's the umbrella. Rolfing from Dr. Ida Rolf, that is her genius. So all of these schools stem from her genius. And so Hellerwork came from Joseph Heller. Joseph Heller was my teacher, and bless his heart, he passed away this year. And he was Dr. Ida Rolf's right-hand man at the Rolf Institute for some time. And he had asked her for permission to integrate a sort of therapeutic dialogue to go along with every session. So technically, the Rolfing series are 10 sessions, and we work on a specific part of the body for each session to create optimal alignment. And the idea with Rolfing and all SI practice is to create harmony and balance between the human form and gravitational space. It's quite beautiful and poetic. Obviously, I love what I do. And so Hellerwork integrated this therapeutic dialogue. What does that mean? So, for example, at session 1, let's say you came in for a session with me. I would work on your upper rib cage, horizontalizing your shoulders to your hips. There's a very specific methodology. And we're talking about breath. We're talking about inspiration. And so I would invite you to go into your breath, and then I might invite you into a sort of dialogue that would incite, hey, Paul, what inspires you in your life? And so what starts to happen now is that people are in a state of receptivity. They're laying on my table. It's also done seated and standing. There are different ways of doing it. And so when people start to think about what inspires them, miraculously, their tissues, of course, start to open. So we are partners in this work. This is my perspective. I am not doing anything to you. We are partners. Of course, I have the methodology and the touch. And so what essentially we do is to create space into the fascial lining, the layering of fascial connective tissue in the body, which is different than massage that focuses more on releasing muscle. And so people in massage check out, people in Hellerwork check in.
Nice. So if for those who don't really know a lot about fascia, it is the connective tissues between all of the muscles and all of the tendons and ligaments and so on, is it?
Yes, I like to call it the organ of communication. And I'll tell you why. I've done many years of anatomical holistic dissection with a wonderful teacher of mine for many years. And so what I learned there was that as we look at the human form, if I address your right shoulder through this organ of communication, which is literally connective tissue, it's one of the fascial sheathings, it will affect your left ankle.
Nice.
So it's very poetic in the way that I view it. Other practitioners may be more biomechanically focused. I love the art form of it. And so, yes, connective tissue fascia, it's not just the wrapping of the muscles, it is the wrapping of our being.
Yeah, and if I heard some amazing statistic, if you took all that tissue and laid it all out, how huge is this?
Well, so essentially, if you were to remove all of my skin, not to get gory here, but just kind of try to see this as more poetic. Essentially, if we remove my superficial layer, which is the skin of our body, I would still stay intact because the connective tissue is what holds us together. It's like an inner stocking, but there are many layers of it. So it's almost as if we were unfolding kind of a roll of literal fabric And so there are many, many different layers of the tissue in the body. There are different textures to the tissue, and it has its own reason for being. For example, every organ in our body, your heart, your spleen, your small intestine, large intestine, your pancreas, all of these organs have their own fascial sheathing that may vary in thickness, in fluidity, and it all communicates with one another. So this is why we cannot speak of Hellerwork or structural integration without addressing the nervous system, our beautiful vagus nerve that has come to the fore now. More and more people are talking, right, about how to regulate the vagus nerve. Essentially, this is what occurs in this work.
And that's so excellent. So taking all of these lines of influence from your unique history and your work as a teacher of meditation and in the martial arts, this all came to an integrated mind, body, spirit work that you call the Duchêne Method. Is that right?
So yes, the Duchêne Method is actually, I just decided to coin my name primarily because Duchêne means of the oak.
Oh, wow.
Of the oak tree. So chêne, C-H-E, accent circonflexe, N-E means chêne means the oak tree. And so I thought to myself, well, gosh, I think that's pretty poetic. So I thought, let me use that. And essentially, what I'm still developing with the Duchêne method is really more of an invitation toward mindful communication through the body, through the mind, and through verbal communication. An invitation to tenderize ourselves, to become more present with ourselves, to learn to listen to our bodies with more care, and to be like an oak tree, to feel the rooting system of Mother Earth. That is, of course, we belong to her in my perspective. She watches over me in my perspective. And so when I work with my clients and patients, I invite them to consider the Duchêne method in a way to communicate with themselves first in loving kindness, so that they might perhaps begin to go into the world and have that perspective also with others. And I think it's important at this point in our history.
Yes, always has been, and perhaps even more so now. You do say that your work helps to create mindful communication and personal awareness. Are there some markers that you can offer to our listener of what we can do on a daily basis to bring a sense of mindfulness and this kind of awareness into our daily activities?
Yes, so I'd like to also offer the term embodifulness. We all know of mindfulness, and that's fantastic. We do, it's beautiful and it's evolved, and certainly it's a great movement in our culture. Embodifulness is another way of looking at it, to remind ourselves of our beautiful body, because here's the thing, without the body, we're basically not here. I mean, spiritually, yes, we can feel that, but this is our temple. This is our temple. So the first thing I would suggest and recommend and invite people to try, just put your hand on your heart in the morning and your hand on your belly, your lower belly, the space between the belly button and your pubic symphysis, like your pubic bone. There is the chi energy in that area, your life force energy. And what I would invite you all to do upon awakening in the morning, the moment your eyes are open, to position your hands on your chest and on your belly, and to just, for no good reason at all, not thinking about it, simply say, thank you. Thank you to my body for awakening. I am breathing this morning. The simplicity of connecting to ourselves. And then taking a few deep breaths and just listening to the body before running out of bed. So a lot of the time we have our alarm clocks and We rush out of bed. We have busy lives. Ah, really? Does it have to be that busy? So that's the question, right? The reflection. To just pause, connect with the body, say thank you, you're breathing. And as we get up out of bed, to be mindful of the first step out of bed. Just be conscious of putting one foot on the floor, your carpet, your hardwood floor, whatever it is, and then arising. And then, oh my God, a miracle that your body can help you stand up. You know, in my career, it's almost 20 years of doing Hellerwork. And I have to say that people will tend to come to us when they are in pain, right? I'm sure you're familiar with this. And
Certainly.
so why not focus also on what's working? Focus on what's working upon awakening. Your eyes open. You have liquid in your eyes. Most of us, right, will have liquid in our eyes that facilitates this movement of opening the eyes. There is saliva in our mouths. Take a moment. And because when we don't have that working, for example, oh boy, now it's a problem, right? And now we pay attention to it. And so my invitation to my clients, and I mean, basically to everyone I know, because I really, really put effort into living this way, to cultivate vitality and to be in the moment of feeling my foot on the floor. And then I might notice on some mornings, I worked out a little too hard last night or got a little too excited, so my ankle's a little creaky. So I pause and I say, thank you for working. Just speak to our bodies.
I love this because it embodies self-compassion, it embodies a gratitude practice, and it also embodies appreciation. And so many authors, so many teachers say these are so critical to our well-being. And simple awareness, or I think you call it an embodied practice, embodiment practice, is an easy way to have it blend, merge us into our daily experience with so much more consciousness and so much more self-care.
Well, I find that it's a beautiful bridge to your work, and this training the body mind, right? And to listen to these beautiful recordings that you offer us, the Paraliminals, right? And so kind of go into this space of connecting with ourselves, and that is also another very effective way to calm down and regulate our nervous system. And I find all of your work to come from a place of loving kindness and
Thank you. Yeah, and when I listen to a paraliminal, I always begin with a hand on my chest, a hand on my abdomen, just to say, hey, I'm here. I'm choosing to have this experience for the next 20 minutes. And I set my intention, and then I might go into more of a shavasana, kind of palms up alongside the body kind of experience. So again, there's a neat blending of these technologies. You can't dismiss body from mind from spirit. I mean, they are integrated, and if we have structural integration, we have holistic integration of our energy on a daily basis, we will be living a more fulfilled life, more on the real purpose for our being.
Yes, and a big part of this today, we're so fortunate to have access to so much information. So for your listeners here today, if you want to learn more about how to care for your body, in addition to what's already been shared, there are many indigenous traditional Chinese medicine, such as Qigong and Tai Chi, these very powerful energy building really technologies to assist us in becoming more centered. Do not live our lives out of a state of reactivity because what's occurring. There's always going to be something occurring out there. Always. There's always something to be angry about, and and I think as I get older, Paul, I want more joy in my life, no matter what's happening around me. And so to do this work, first of all, I consider a privilege to be in such close relationship with my clients, and also to be able to share with them both the scientific approach to anatomical understanding, physiological understanding, in relationship to their spirit, to how they feel, to their belief systems. Perhaps it's time to shift our belief. Why not? Right? If we're not feeling well, and because we're eating a lot of fried foods, well, you cut the fried foods out, and as if per miracle, within a few days, your body regenerates itself. That's the miracle of the human body.
Mm.
And so in the work that I offer, it's really a lot about how can we mindfully communicate, integrate embodied communication, our not just verbal, but our body language, an open heart, direct eye contact, a sense of grounded, feeling secure and confident through compassion, through a vision of tenderness. Because yeah, we can all be angry for a lot of time, and we can rebuke and say, oh, this is wrong and this is bad. Sure, absolutely. I challenge you lovingly, not you, but your viewers and all of us, to focus a little bit more on, okay, that's true. I'm not saying it's not real, that there's not drama and chaos, but if you focus on what's working in your life, on your sense of creativity, right? The other piece that I invite is for people to tap into creativity, to go into nature, maybe develop an artistic, whatever it is, drawing, singing, moving, planting seeds, literally. This invites a different perspective of our relationship with life and in life.
Yes, in fact, yesterday I was teaching a workshop to a group through the Unity Church here in Minneapolis, and I was talking about our access to higher wisdom through an intuitive connection, and that's many of the things that you're saying I was talking about yesterday in the workshop. Having a journaling practice, working outside in the garden, taking walks, communicating with nature. And it really does hook us into this field of intelligence that's around us, within us, and always supporting us. When I do a simple drop-in meditation, I always invite people to recognize that the heartbeat and the breath are the very demonstration of the life force energy that is here supporting you. How often do we recognize it? Do we connect with it? Do we engage it to remind us of our place here in the cosmos?
Yeah, such beautiful words. It's, what always fascinates me is the actual simplicity of it all.
Mm.
Simple, simple. Let us return to a place of simplicity within, to observe, to look up at the sky, the blueness of the sky. Because when we don't have it, again, if there's a fire, like recently, I'm in the New York City area, and we had fires actually in Brooklyn, in Park Slope, and in New Jersey, and we can smell the fire, and also the sky was inhibited, right? It was darker. And so we immediately, our bodies react to this because there's a little bit of like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And so appropriate reaction. And so to go a step further and to connect to our higher consciousness on a daily basis, to be thankful for the most of the time, big part of the time, our sun, the sun rises, the sky is blue. There are trees, there are birds, there's still this type of life around us that all of these things help to regulate our nervous system.
Yes. Well, as we finish up or try to bring to a close this holistic approach you have for all of us to live, you refer to your work as helping people find inner peace, embodied practice, and self-understanding. And I think that each of these in and of itself can be a study. Is there a way that anyone who has listened to our podcast today can enhance these three areas of their life as they go?
Yes. So for people who are in a state of where they're experiencing pain in their life, because that's a very real thing as well. There is sorrow, there's grief, there's pain. Please explore possibilities in your area. There are many wonderful practitioners, healers who can support you. So the first thing I would say is, first of all, to begin this cultivation of inner peace, we must begin to ask questions, become curious. How can I move myself forward if I am in pain? If I have hard opinions, if I have hatred in my body, anger, these are all normal. We're human beings. So the first step I would say is be curious. Look and Google is a great tool. Look for a Hellerwork practitioner in your area. Explore with healing techniques such as breathwork, certainly somatic movement, right? So to slowly start to integrate these by looking outside of the norm. And maybe this will sound a little controversial, but it's okay. I give myself permission to step back from allopathic medicine, which is a more pharmaceutical-based approach to I don't really think it's healing. It can be helpful.
Well, treating symptom. That's really
Symptom. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we move away from a sense of certainty that this is wrong, it's not supposed to be here, I got to get this out of here, and move it more to a curiosity of what can help to reestablish balance and a greater sense of internal, emotional, mental peace. Those kinds of inquiries are going to lead to positive learning behaviors. And I think, as you've said, you then begin to attract to you the right messages at the right time in your progress through life.
Correct.
Cool.
To explore, what I would call more indigenous approaches, which now is not so much indigenous, but for example, traditional Chinese medicine. If you've never tried acupuncture and you are someone who struggles with muscle spasm, migraines, give it a shot if you've never tried it, to become more curious into the healing systems that are available to us that are more indigenous. So I would say Hellerwork is a practice where we integrate body, mind, spirit, and emotions. So to look for support from technologies that embrace all of us and not just the pain in your wrist.
Yeah, I think it's also important to know that more than 95% of all referrals to complementary and alternative medical approaches come from traditional allopathic physicians. So there is a big awakening in the field of medicine that there are things we don't know and there are things that we can't solve, and there are modalities that can really help here. So good. Yeah, excellent. How about in terms of embodied practices and self-understanding? Easy steps we might be able to take as we go forward?
Yes. So one of my favorite things that I do, so I develop my morning ritual to make sure upon arising, I do my first step, and then I eventually make room to my living room floor, and I will frequently use some sort of foam roller or some sort of ball that I will lay on and melt into and start to gently awaken my body. So I would start on the floor. And so this embodiment practice of using these types of tools, you can also do it just through gentle stretching, which you can call somatic movement. Somatic just means of the body. So, to do these gentle, it doesn't have to take a long time, 10, 15 minutes in the morning. This also gives us a chance to connect to ourselves. So a little bit of stretching, rolling around on the floor. If you're using a foam roller, fantastic. If you're using balls, great. Notice where there might be areas of tension in the body and simply breathe through them. Such simple, basic things to do. And I promise you, and your readers, I promise you that you will actually feel better.
That's nice. I do have a morning practice where I roll around on the floor as well, sit in meditation, and midday I do spring forest Qigong. And, these kinds of ways of starting the day, punctuating the day, really bring us back to center. So these are all beautiful. And how about our ongoing self-awareness? Any final thoughts on that? This has been very enlightening.
Yes. So self-awareness, how do we become more self-aware? It's a daily practice. It's a moment. For some people, I have a meditation practice, clearly. But I also want to invite people to really take a moment to sit in the morning, and perhaps it's free-flowing writing and using your hand and a pen, not necessarily on the computer. That's okay too, but really taking a moment to doodle around. Get yourself a nice set of colorful pencils or pens or crayons and just doodle, even coloring these beautiful Mayan the Mayan calendar types of images, to do something that is out of your regular type of thing to do, because that incites your brain to become more focused and aware into trying something different. The other thing that I would say for awareness, something that was very helpful to me when I was going through a more difficult time in my life, was to actually volunteer to go into my community, to work with different people in different economic backgrounds and to support them through helping with the food kitchen, even with my neighbor who's elderly, to go help her. Why does that help us in awareness? It takes us out of our egocentric self about me and my problems and my life, and opens up my heart of compassion. And so we can all find time to support someone in our community, to look for them. Here's the curiosity piece. Look for them. And then this helps really to develop a much more beautiful, grounded sense of personal awareness. And you realize, for so many of us, oh my God, how fortunate I am, how blessed I am that I have so much abundance. So it's not just yes, certainly reflection and contemplation, meditation, classical music, something that will help to bring your awareness here. But I found the most effective way for my awareness to evolve was to help others.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for shining such a gorgeous light into the world. I really appreciate you and all that you're doing. And I do want to say shout out to your YouTube channel for people to see some of those movements, or your Instagram posts. You actually do share some very simple movements that can help anyone every single day. Any further resource that we ought to, it's on our MINDTRX podcast, how to get a hold of you and all of that. But is there anything in particular there that might direct people to?
Yeah, so certainly my YouTube channel, Art of Alignment Academy. Everything is about art of alignment. So Art of Alignment Academy, my website, there are several blogs, information about my work, but also some links to other types of important work. I do believe that sharing is caring. And so if you go on my YouTube channel, I offer some somatic movement practices, of course, on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find via social media. And finally, if you really want to get into the inner circle, to join my newsletter. There is where I really share about upcoming events. I have a reset program that's starting in January, and a pilgrimage to India in April of 2025.
Oh, wonderful. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. It's just a great pleasure to be with you. Peace and blessings.
Thank you, Paul. Peace and blessings.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Anne-Marie Duchêne. You can learn more about Anne-Marie at artofalignmentacademy.com. And now in the second part of the podcast, it's just you and me. I'll tell you how to use the Paraliminal sessions in the MINDTRX app to easily handle obstacles and move toward the success you want, especially as it relates to Anne-Marie's message. If you're new to the relaxing Paraliminal audio sessions, they use breakthrough technologies to activate your whole mind in only 20 minutes to help improve any area of your life. Let's get going.
Hello, and welcome back to this ongoing part of the conversation I had with Anne-Marie Duchêne and her work in aligning, this whole art of alignment concept. Brilliant life history. What a seeker, what an explorer. To me, very inspiring to recognize that out of her passion, she's been able to help so many people find a path of healing, understanding, enlightenment, and living pain-free. It's really gorgeous. So a lot of fun for me. There's so many lines of similar communication and study that both of us have had, so many shared interests, that it's hard for me to limit the number of topics we could focus on when it comes to using paraliminal technology to support the ideas that she was sharing. But I've identified 5 areas that you could pursue. The first area is this idea of finding balance and alignment. The second is finding inner peace. The third is embodied practices, and then self-understanding, and finally mindful communication. Now, I could put a lot of paraliminals in each of these. I'm supposed to only share 1 or 2, but I'm going to give you 2 or 3 in each of these areas. So let's talk about finding balance and alignment. She said something very important. How we go to sleep and how we wake up in the morning is a key time for us to be in touch with ourselves, that sense of self-awareness, hand on the chest, hand on the belly, being aware as you awaken, to acknowledge the aspects of your life that give you health and well-being as you place your feet on the floor, getting a sense of grounding and all that. Beautiful. I think as we go to sleep and as we wake up are 2 of the most crucial times for us to connect with ourselves and to a deeper source of energy that's supporting us to be here in this human existence. So I think that the sleep deeply, wake refreshed paraliminal is the perfect bookend to help you do a lot of what Anne-Marie was suggesting. Secondly is this idea of recover and re-energize. And certainly when we have a stressful day, or when we're shot out of a cannon, or when for whatever reason we're overcome by a lot of emotions of what's going on, physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever it may be, the recover and re-energize paraliminal will help you gain from whatever your life experience has been. And it brings you back to center. So very helpful in terms of finding balance and alignment. And the second area is the area of finding inner peace. She said something very important to me. It's this idea of taking a simple approach. And there is a paraliminal called simplicity that may help exactly in that area, because we begin to look at what are our priorities today. And when we simplify, when we do give ourselves some time to just connect with ourselves before dashing off into our very busy and important lives, But to be able to really center in, I think simplicity is a wonderful message and a wonderful level of support for you. The second paraliminal is gratitude. She did speak quite a bit about appreciating what you do have, just the way it is. And you can do that by serving others who are less privileged or are under-resourced in comparison to how resourced you are. This idea of finding something to be grateful for, whether it's your heartbeat or whether it's your breath or the fact that you can stand up when you get out of a chair or a bed, all of these are things for which you can be grateful. And remember that what you appreciate appreciates. So you'll get more of what you reinforce. Powerful idea for finding inner peace, simplicity, and gratitude paraliminals. The next area is embodied practices. And she talked, I kept coming back to it because it seemed like a little bit different approach that she takes. She actually called them embodiment practices, which is great, a way of getting more embodied in this human experience we have. And in this, I found two paraliminals that could be quite helpful. One is called conscious time, which when you listen to it, it establishes for you that which it is you're choosing to invest your time today. What are you choosing to invest your time in? Time is not something you can save. Well, there's time-saving practices. No, you can't really save it. You can't put it in a bank account and hold it for a rainy day. It's got to be spent, and how you spend it is what's key here. So play with that. It's a very interesting way of considering what is it that I'm choosing to embody in my day today. Second one is self-discipline. The self-discipline paraliminal says, I know this is something I need to add to my life. I am going to be a follower of this way of thinking, feeling, or being. And in that, the self-discipline paraliminal can help bring an additional level of focus and energy toward that which you believe is going to make a big difference, whether it's a journaling practice, as Anne-Marie suggested, or whether it's a yoga practice, meditation practice, Qigong practice, martial arts, whatever it might be. But this idea that you are going to follow a pattern that may be unusual for you, and you'll discipline yourself to stay on that path, to follow that until the breakthrough, the insight really comes through. I found it exceedingly important for me as a way of keeping me on track, especially when, for whatever reason, I've drifted off track, right? Really helpful to bring me back into focus. The fourth area is called self-understanding. Well, I think a lot of the paraliminal technology is devoted to understanding yourself and your resources, that which you have to bring into the world. I've selected three specifically around the ideas that Anne-Marie was speaking about. The first one is the Self-Esteem Supercharger. I put a lot of value on this one because it does help us to recognize that we're always doing the best that our current awareness permits. And if you're not getting a result you want, beating yourself up isn't going to help. Self-compassion is. So the self-esteem supercharger really is it's like a love letter to yourself. It's recognizing that this isn't something that you get by being better, doing more. It's really your relationship with yourself. Very helpful. Second is a paraliminal called Finding Yourself, which takes you through your entire life history and brings you in touch, more in touch with your life purpose. And the final one, self-actualization, which follows the idea of the hierarchy of needs that Abraham Maslow has, but then expands into a higher level called beyond self-actualization and self-transcendence. It's a beautiful way of taking a look at that which you value most, how you have devoted your time, and what it is that is your next evolutionary step. So all of these would help in the area of self-understanding, self-esteem supercharger, finding yourself, and self-actualization. And the fourth and final area I'm going to recommend that we play with is this area of mindful communication. Now, Anne-Marie suggested that when we are mindfully communicating with ourselves, that's going to have an influence on how we interact out in the world with others. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about with others, so I want to suggest a couple of paraliminals that focus a bit more on our relationship with ourselves, which then moves into an influence, it has a positive influence on our relations with others. So the first one is called active listening. When you do practice active listening with another, you're actually learning to be more patient, more present within yourself. And being patient with yourself and compassionate with yourself is also an embodied practice that will help mindfully communicate with yourself as well as others. So active listening, it's a really fun one. The second is called creating sparks. And this is the idea that who we are as an energetic being is always interacting with the energy field of other energetic beings out in the world. And so to be aware of what it is that we're embodying and to really have a choiceful communication with how we use our energies, especially in our interactions with others, quite profound. And the third and final paraliminal in this idea of mindful communication is the self-love paraliminal. It's one of my go-to for so many of the authors that we speak with on the podcast, but it really is a remarkable way of communicating with oneself, where you combine with your younger self and your future self, and you come together with your present self to really have an uplifting, harmonious, beautiful internal, expansive internal communication with this amazing human experience that you're having. We live in life in a sequential timeline, but in truth, time is a construct of the human mind, and everything is really happening in this now moment. So in this now moment, you can be at peace. You can be self-compassionate. You can be more loving in the world as well. Enjoy these paraliminals. I hope you enjoyed the conversation I had with Anne-Marie Duchêne, and I'll look forward to being with you in a future podcast. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining me today. I applaud your willingness to maximize your potential. You can easily use the paraliminal audio sessions in the MINDTRX app to stimulate your non-conscious mind, that is your inner mind, to reduce any resistance in your life and to propel you toward the success you want. Go to www.mindtrx.com/go. These amazing audio tools have helped millions, and I encourage you to bring them into your world today. Be sure to be back for more episodes of the MINDTRX podcast. You'll find insightful conversations with authors, experts, and thought leaders, all devoted to improving your life's experience. Thank you again for being here on our MINDTRX podcast.